Welcome back to another episode of In Swine Versation. Motivated youth to drive the family farm and pork industry forward with Blake Floors from Carolina Swine Integrators. Welcome, Blake.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it's great to continue to network with motivated youth in the pork industry. What's the Blake Floors story and journey? Where did it begin and your love for pigs?
Yeah, so I've had an unconventional route to where I am today. I feel like in the pork industry. Didn't really grow up around hogs or any kind of agriculture in any way. And mostly I grew up around the car business. And just to take it back a little bit, my grandpa was a used car dealer. His dad was a used car dealer, and my grandpa's brother, my great uncle, was also a used car dealer. Had a used car lot right down the road from where our car lot is today. And funny story, our hog office for now is actually doubled down as a used car lot. So that's one interesting thing. And hopefully I'm trying to get an office where we'll be standalone, but just getting going. We've kind of been working out of there. But yeah, he was a used car salesman, and around 1970 he had the opportunity to start a new car dealership with Toyota. And at that time, Toyota really wasn't what we think of it as today, as one of the top manufacturers of vehicles. There was a little bit concern of what how Americans would be receptive to a Japanese made product. And there was some questions, and the Toyota reps, from what I've always was told, went around to a few other used car dealers before they went to my grandpa, trying to get him to start the dealership, and nobody really bid on the opportunity. There was it was a lot of speculation on how it would go. But he took a chance with it, and it went very well. There was a time where he would have trouble getting the cars in. People wanted them so good. And this was a time when gas took a huge jump. So people were looking for a fuel efficient car or a fuel efficient truck. And so his business did very well. And he retired about, this was 1970 that he started. About 1985 or 6, he sold his dealership. My dad was briefly involved in the business, but wasn't really his passion. And when he sold his dealership, he got into commercial and residential real estate. And my dad also did the same thing. And that's really what I grew up around my early life, and was more of business, more so than agriculture business. I was around a lot of business, a lot of rentals and any stuff like that. And I spent a lot of days after school in this office that I'm actually talking to you in right now. My mom would set up a TV for me when I was real young, and after school, instead of going to daycare, I'd come here, or instead of going to aftercare, I would come here, and she would set up a little TV. I had a sleeping bag, and I'd watch shows in our office. She was the secretary for the business, and spent a lot of time here, heard a lot of stuff, and learned a lot from a young age about business. And I always had that knack for business. I was just thinking, my dad and grandpa were always selling stuff and buying and selling cars, or whether it was a property or whatever. So I grew up around that a lot. And I remember in 5th grade was probably my first interaction, trying to be a business person. There was these things called power balance bands, and I ordered about 50 or 60 of them off eBay, and I sold them to all my classmates. And that was kind of the first time I got into trying to get into business and try to make some money. but yeah, and that was kind of what I was around for a lot of my life. And then we had always had acreage for recreational purposes in the 90s. My uncle and dad went in together and just for deer hunting and riding four-wheelers, and it wasn't an income producing farm at all. And our neighbor, his name was Mr. James Stroud. He had a 1,000 head sow farm that he had built with our local integrator, and he let us hunt his land for free. So it was really cool. And my dad told him if he ever, when he went to retire, that he'd love to buy the land. And he said, well, when I retire, I'll give you the first right to buy the land. And with one stipulation, that he also buy the sow farm. And like I said, we had no experience agriculture wise at all. My dad's always kind of been a business mind, and he saw the opportunity as a good investment at that time, and he ended up buying the farm with the sow farm. And this was about 2010 that happened, and it went well. We were lucky to have good management in place to run the farm, but I never really was involved in the farm. It wasn't something I was passionate about at all. And then about 9 years later, around 2019, he had the opportunity to purchase another sow farm, a 2,000 head sow farm on contract with the same integrator, and purchased that. And at that time is kind of when I realized, it might be an opportunity for me to make a living, and my siblings weren't involved in in agriculture at all, in the sow farms. They didn't have any interest. My brother actually runs our used car lot today. My sister's a nurse, and my brother's he works in real estate. So I saw an opportunity there, but again, like I said, it wasn't my passion. I went to NC State. I was majoring in ag business. And then I had plans to go back to the sow farm and try to learn that, and maybe try to manage that, and it be my job. But about a few months before I graduated, in 2020, due to the effects of COVID, our integrator went out of business. So our barn sat empty for a while, and I didn't have too much in store or in planned for what I would be doing. And I ended up moving to Arizona. I had a few friends out there, and my brother lived in Gilbert, Arizona for a while. I've been out there to visit him and fell in love with the area. I love Arizona still to this day, and love going out there. But moved there in January of 21, and my dad called me probably four or so months into me moving there, and said, I'll never forget where I was. And he told me that thinks he had an opportunity to get our farms back going, and it wasn't going to be on a contract. It was us owning the pigs and paying for the feed, and just being a very small integrator. And that was exciting for me, and that's when I really started to think, you know what, I think this could be something good. And then fast forward, we ordered the gilts for our 2,000 sow farm in August of 21, and by October I had moved back to Goldsboro. So I was there for less than a year in Arizona. It wasn't really my plan. I had planned to be there for a long time, really, but I didn't think this was going to happen. So moved back in October, and that's really when my passion for what we do started. When you have a sow farm on contract, I feel like it was easy for us to say or think, when that wean pig leaves the farm, we didn't have any clue what happened after that. Pretty much, we didn't care what grains costed, any of the market conditions of what hogs are bringing or anything like that. We just got a fee for growing the hog. So it's been a steep learning curve, but just everything that I've learned in the last year plus about the business, I fell in love with this industry, the people, everybody's, you know, came with open arms trying to help me learn the industry, and I've had the opportunity to meet some great people. Going to places like MPIC was my first industry event, and World Pork Expo. I just couldn't say enough good things about the people in this industry, and that's what's made it great for me.
So you're fully kind of immersed now in everything. So there's probably lots of ups and downs. What about team building? I know building a team and leadership is important to you to get people to work together towards a common goal. So how does that apply to the hog business from what you've known before and what you're doing now?
Right. So it's been cool, because everybody that grows with us today was in the same situation that we were in. We were all kind of blindsided by it. All of our barns were empty, so it's been an organic process. Where I mean, also in that we didn't have any choice really. We had no other choice but to put ourselves on the back burner and put the common good as a priority. So it's been great to see our growers come together and form a team, and they've been great, and the people working in our company. We're just super blessed to have the people in the company that are so passionate and go above and beyond what's really been asked for them to get our common goal accomplished. Like, for example, me and 2 or 3 other guys that it's not going to be their full-time job, but we've kind of just had to piece the thing together. Like, now starting to sell market hogs, me and these 2 other guys are the loadout crew, and just doing whatever's needed. And I have a hard time thinking about what my job title is, or any of our job titles. It's kind of just been like, we're going to get the job done. And don't really have a title. And seeing everybody come together in that way has really been special. And for the community, our ag community in Wayne County, Duplin County is really tight knit. Everybody knows everybody pretty much, and to be able to be a part of something bigger than yourself, and just see everybody come together has been super special.
Because I know you're a sports fan, and then the whole team building applies to what you're doing now. And so what's your ultimate vision when you think about team building? Is it just seeing people work together? What's like the ultimate vision for that?
Yeah, so with team building, I mean, it's been a learning experience, and having, for me, being able to be, for me, being young and just starting out in this industry, having people who know what they're doing, and that are willing to help me learn, but also being open to new things. Like, I'm new in the industry, but some of the guys that work with us were doing it for 30 years, right? So the ability for us to say, you know what, this is how we or they did it for 30 years, and but we're in a different situation now, and being able to be, I guess the key word is flexibility. For us in our team building, it has been flexibility, and just being able to, come together for the common goal, and yeah, that's kind of how it's been.
So you're in a pig rich area in North Carolina. Is that intimidating, motivating?
Yeah, so I'd say it's motivating and inspiring. Just all the rich history that the hog business has in North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina. When you think of the Murphy family and the Prestiges, just the amazing family businesses that have been such a huge part of rural North Carolina economy. That's been a very inspiring thing, and just the history of barbecue in Eastern North Carolina. We there's a state debate of the Western style barbecue versus Eastern style, which Eastern style is vinegar based, and there's a debates back and forth, and like I've been out of state before, and people say, "Oh, are you from Goldsboro, North Carolina? Y'all got some good barbecue. You know about Wilbur's barbecue there, or McCall's, or some of these staples for us." That's been really cool, because it's a big part of our culture here, and getting back to it being intimidating. Yeah, it has been, in some ways, in that we are such, like you said, in such a pig rich area. We've had to focus on biosecurity tenfold, and do everything we can, because we are in a pig rich area, and one of the reasons why that came to be true, like I was talking about with contract farming becoming a big thing in the 90s, with Wendell Murphy and his vision for indoor housing and things of that nature. It gave an opportunity for farmers in our area and around North Carolina, to diversify their operations. So, as you know, tobacco was our cash crop, and was what North Carolina was known for the longest time. And then when the tobacco buyout started happening, farmers looked for ways to diversify their operation and have a steady form of income. And so they would take some of their land that was a little less fertile producing land, maybe some of the land that doesn't grow quite as good, and built hog houses, and that's kind of why contract growing and the hog business, in my opinion, has kind of been such a big thing around North Carolina. And then most of our buildings are from the 80s and 90s. There was a moratorium on new hog buildings built in 98. So we have some older facilities here, and people can't just build a new hog farm in North Carolina. You can get permitted to tear your building down and build a new one, but for the most part, our farms have been here, and there's not going to be any new ones. So.
And back to biosecurity for a minute, you guys had a loss of production due to PED issue.
Right. Yeah. So that was one of our huge challenges, and I mean, as you know, that's a part of production, and we do everything we can on the biosecurity front. And but yeah, so we were just on the doorstep of marketing pigs, and broke with PED and lost that production, and that was a huge undertaking for us to get over and to get back healthy. But knock on wood, we've been doing great ever since, and things have been going smoothly. But the biosecurity thing is a top priority for us. And I guess we realized that you can have the best biosecurity plan in the world, and things happen, and you might catch something. But if there's anything that we can do, the way I've looked at it is, if I can eliminate a risk, and if I can mitigate a risk in biosecurity, I have one less thing to worry about. So I've tried to stay motivated to do everything we can in our power,
So let's talk about gaps in agriculture, which kind of goes back to one of your passions of being an advocate for the industry. I know you think young people, we need to step up a little bit and be a face for what farmers are doing.
Yeah. So, and I'm so thankful for what the generations ahead of or before me have done for the industry and agriculture. But the gap, like you said, the gap between that generation and my generation is something that worries me a little bit. That 100 years ago, there was a lot of family farms, and as things have changed, things have consolidated, and less people are farmers now. So I think that's created a gap of knowledge about what farming is, and it's created a lot of misinformation out there for the consumer, whether it's GMOs or just labeling that might be misinformation or misleading. So that's one thing I've tried to make a point to not be scared to have my voice out there and to speak up on behalf of our industry, because if we don't, somebody will, and it's going to be somebody who's never been on a farm before, more than likely, and they're going to be influencing our policies. And I guess we're seeing some of that even in the last few years, policies that aren't practical for us, but people making our policies that don't have a clue about a pig or never been in a pig barn. And I don't want to be a politician, but that comes down to how we vote and having our voices out there on behalf of animal agriculture and being an advocate. So yeah, I try to do everything I can to be present. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy out there. I'm not anything special, but I try to be present, and I try to have my voice out there, and half the battle is just being there. So that's kind of the approach that I've taken.
Well, you're producing food and you're involved in the day-to-day, and you want people to see that and to see what actually is going on. And then I think you mentioned there's less family farms, which is a bit of a disconnect as well.
Right. And I think it's what's happened is, and to no fault of their own, farmers have been busy farming. They've been busy producing this product. And I don't think anybody my dad's generation or around his age has really felt the importance of, I need to go to this community day and inform the public about agriculture, because number one, most farmers don't have the time to do that. And I think it's kind of been a thing where it's like, that's not our job either. Like, I'm gonna be focused on producing our product, and that's what we're gonna do. But I think that's something that is gonna have to change, or our right to farm and our freedom to operate will be under fire.
Are you good for some rapid fire questions, Blake?
Yeah, let's go.
So I know you're on the Genesis program, and the motto is better tasting pork. So what's your take on a better tasting product?
Yeah, so to me, that is, and I read the Jim Long commentaries, and I wholeheartely agree with his philosophies about better tasting pork, and how that is how we're going to drive demand, and keep the ball rolling on the advancement of pork consumption. And yeah, so a better tasting product to me is how we drive demand. There's obviously always room to have improvement on our production end, but we are awfully efficient as an industry producing a pig, producing the product, the pig, and I think maybe sometimes we've lost focus on what will drive prices for our industry, and maybe focus not as much on the taste, but producing that lean carcass as quickly as possible with the best efficiency and whatever it may be. And those are great things, and they're all a part of having a good product. But I think there's work to be done, and I love the Genesis approach to focus in on meat quality, because that's how we're going to drive demand. This past weekend, me and a buddy of mine, we like to go around and try different pork products, and really just try to. I'll post a picture here and there of what I was eating in the pork. Like this past weekend, I had a bone-in pork chop, and I think if everybody, if we were in our local pork associations like pork councils and all that, have done a great job of educating the public on the temperature to cook your pork, and it's safe to cook a pork chop to medium. But yeah, so in if everybody could eat pork like that, and like the pork chop I had this weekend, I think that would drive our prices and compete with beef more so than trying to compete as the other white meat.
It's a good point about the pork chop. I know we had an article released on the pork industry needing a Wagyu moment. Maybe we need to map out where these great pork chops are to the industry so people can go and on a big food map, something like that. Now, what about a reasonable percentage goal to sell more pork in the next 10 years?
Yeah, percentage wise, I don't know. That might be a question for Dr. Steve Meyer or economist in our industry, but yeah, I'm not too knowledgeable on that. But I mean, I would say, I mean, even if we could grow it 5%, with our population growing, I think that's reasonable. But like we talked about, I think the supply, we have a low supply of hogs at the moment, and our production end of the business, we're efficient, but that taste is how we're going to drive demand, and I think that's possible, and I think as the industry as a whole, that's kind of being realized. I think that's on the forefront, and something that's not going away.
Who's your mentor?
My mentor, so I just in life in general, my grandpa was a huge influence on me. He was one of my best friends, and my dad was one of my great mentors growing up. Just learned a lot from them too. And then on the hog side, a guy that's been working with us, Mr. William Rouse, he's been like a dad to me in the pork industry, and just he's gone above and beyond to kind of teach me and always encouraged me, never tried to shoot me down. And anytime I had an idea, he would tell me it was stupid, but in a very nice way, so that I really appreciate people like him, and he's really been a mentor for me. Same thing with our serviceman, our production serviceman, Jamie Bedford. He's been awesome, and just answered any questions I ever had, and just like I said, gone above and beyond to invest in me as a person. And then outside of our company, I have a good friend, Jack Wisnat, who's in production. He's from Indiana, and he's kind of in a niche market with the GAP programs and stuff like that. So he's been great to learn a little bit about the marketing side of the product. He has some experience in the packing side in his career. So he's been great for me to kind of, and that's been one of my interests is after it leaves our farm, and the process of after we send our market pigs out, the process of it ending up at the grocery store, at the restaurant, how that product is sold into those stores and then into those retailers, and it's been really cool trying to learn his knowledge about that end of the business, as well as his production knowledge, but that end's been really cool for me, and he's kind of taken me under his wing to learn that. And then Mr. Mike Porth, who works with Partners for Production Ag. It's now Ever Ag. The Joe Kearns and Associates. Their whole team has been super instrumental in our business. And Mike in specific, like he opened up his house to me at World Pork Expo this past year, and just treated me, gone above and beyond to treat me very well, and again, just be a mentor to me. It's funny, I was early on when I moved to North Carolina, I don't know what was going on with the business, but we were facing some challenges, and me and my dad, very brand new to the industry, we had questions. And like I said, I've never been scared to ask a question. But I ended up, it's funny. It's just really funny. I was Googling, hog consultants or pork industry consultants. and one way or another, their office, Partners for Production Ag, popped up, and I talked to Chris Fisher, who's the office manager there, and he's an awesome guy. And I said, I explained my situation, and I said, I need some help, consultant wise, and just need some advice. Um, and he handed the phone to Mike, and we've been friends ever since, and had a great conversation, and they've been instrumental in getting our business up and going.
Any perceptions you're trying to change?
Yeah, so yeah, I guess the main one that I have interest in changing is is how agriculture is perceived. I think if you read the general public, if they Google ag, things like big ag might come up, or the ag system's broken. And MPIC, I think it was 2 years ago, a guy named Jack Bobo was a speaker. He's a food futurist, I think is what he said his title was. But his speech that day really got a grip on me, and I remember one quote that he said that really stuck out was, agriculture is good and getting better, not bad and getting worse. And I think that's so true. If you look back in the last 100 years, the advancements that we've made in the industry, not just the hog industry, but just agriculture in general, but the hog industry, the advancements we've made have been extremely impressive. How we've moved the needle in the industry, and that's something that it's only gonna get better. And that's a perception I want to change, and people to know that we are producing the safest, most affordable product out there, nutritious product, and the system's not broken, and it's getting better. And there might be less farmers than there was 100 years ago, but that's a part of economies of scale, I guess, being able to produce that product cheaper, and so on. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the main ones that I'd like to change.
What's one of your hobbies or your most favorite hobby?
Yeah, my favorite hobby is definitely golf. My grandpa, my grandpa mentioned, we spent a lot of time on the golf course, and I probably started playing golf when I was 6 or 7 years old, and he would take me out there, and when he retired, he was playing golf a lot, and he would let me go, and I would swing his club that weighed maybe more than I did, and it took me for a whirl when I swung it. So, but I got used to it, and and played a lot of golf growing up. That was my passion. Played in high school. Played 1 year at University of Mount Olive, which is about 25 minutes from Goldsboro. I don't know if you ever heard of Mount Olive pickle, but it's sold. I think they're sold around the world, but I know everywhere in the U.S. that Mount Olive pickles are sold. But yeah, I played 1 year of golf there, and then ended up NC State. But yeah, that's always been a passion of mine. I still play golf now. It's been a little bit more difficult in the last year or so to find time to go play. But I still like to, and hopefully when it gets a little bit warmer, I might sneak out there on the weekend. But that's kind of my place where for some people it's fishing or whatever it may be, where you go and you clear your mind, and you don't have anything on your mind. So golf's been really relaxing. It's been really sentimental to me because of how I grew up playing with my grandpa. And one funny story about him, he was not the best chipper, so he would putt from like 80 yards out in the fairway and swing it as hard as he could. And sometimes I'll do that because that's one of the little tricks he taught me. And but yeah, I love playing golf, and I'll definitely say that's my top hobby.
Do you think the industry, the pork industry, should develop like a pork chain restaurant, or an entrepreneur jump in on something like that?
I think there's an opportunity for sure. With something like that, we have steakhouses. Why not a pork house, right? And kind of like with growing demand, um, having high quality pork products on display. I mean, I think that's an opportunity for sure. Um, and you look at countries like Japan, places like that where pork is the number one. Well, pork's the number one consumed meat worldwide. But I think when you look at countries like that, you can definitely see the opportunity that we have to move the needle for pork consumption like they have and like it is in their culture. So yeah, I mean, I think that'd be a great idea. I don't know who we need to call about that.
Well, either the industry bands together or we try to, yeah, that's a topic for another day. What does continuous learning and education mean to you?
So yeah, I I had no choice but to be continually learning and educating, because I came in knowing nothing. And sometimes that's not the worst thing. I mean, I guess it's better to not know anything and ask questions and learn than to think I know something and not ask a question. So that's definitely been the approach that I've had to take, to 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 further educate myself and try to help run our business the best that I can. So that's definitely been a focus of mine is to always ask questions and and not be scared to ask a stupid question, because I ask some of those sometimes like everybody else. And but not being scared to ask a question. I think that's been one of the big things for me to try to never stop learning about what we're doing.
Yeah, there's no bad question.
Right.
So, final question here, Blake. What's one attribute in our industry that's under the radar, something we need to improve or seize the next opportunity?
Yeah. So yeah, well, seizing the opportunity, I do see a huge opportunity in it's a buzzword, but sustainability. And I think that's something that we're catching on to, that it's not, like I said, or it's just not going away. Um, that sustainability topic, and I think we're in a unique position in the pork industry, with how our system works. I mean, our manure from our hogs are used to spray our crops. Our crops grow and it's fed back to the pig. I mean, that's a beautiful sustainability story. And it's something that we've always done. But it's something that maybe we haven't quantified like we needed to. And I think that's something like what the um pork board, I think it was, that did the sustainability reports, like quantifying these things that we're doing and being able to show, hey, this is the proof of what we're doing. And we're close to that carbon neutral pig that everybody talks about. I think we're closer than everybody thinks. And it's something that's coming soon, and will be a marketing tool to reach. And I think that's a great thing to kind of differentiate our product.
This is a really good talk, Blake. Thanks for joining us on In Swine Versation.
Thank you. It was an honor.